Greetings, listeners in Listenerland. Welcome to St. Louis in Tune with Arnold Stricker and Mark Langston, where we size up current and historic events involving people, places, and things in areas such as the arts, crime, education, employment, faith, finance, food, health, history, housing, humor, justice, and sports, and I forgot government. We originate from and connect the gateway city to our country's current cultural fabric and lives. Mark, what's happening? You're doing double duty there.
I'm trying to learn. Yeah, I know. We've had a turnover in staff. You know how people are. They find a better job. You want them to go.
Right. Not
really, but you want them to go. What am I going to do? What, now I have to do it?
He was fixing a headset for our guest.
I was.
Dia Hoover, who is author of Hannibal, A Walk Through History, is here in studio, and she's going to talk about this book. We had Dia previously on the show to talk about your book about, it was the...
STL Scavenger.
What's that?
STL Scavenger.
I love that Scavenger Hunt. STL Scavenger Hunt. That was great.
It's a lot more work than this book. This book lays it out for you. You don't have to solve clues. You don't have to find hidden pictures. Right. You just read it, walk the path, and enjoy.
Okay, so walk us through a history of Hannibal. You were born in Hannibal.
I was born in Hannibal because Vandalia, Missouri was too small to have a hospital. So I was born at St. Elizabeth's. Never knew what a big deal that was till I became a tour director. And when I would immigrate to another country, they always say put the city of your birth and the country. So every immigration officer I had to talk to would say, oh, Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer, you're from Hannibal Mo, Shoeless Joe. I had no idea until I started leaving Missouri and leaving the country. And I thought, man, that's something. And that was 22 years ago when I became a tour director and started traveling heavily. And so I now understand how much Mark Twain impacted the world. He did 16 cruises. He sent epistles back. That's why he's known worldwide, because he went to the countries and shared his experiences. And they know him. Like when Bermuda had their anniversary, they had Richard Gere, who's a Mark Twain reenactor from Hannibal, come be there for it. And Huckleberry Finn is still in the top 10 most banned books.
Really?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow. Who knew?
Henry Sweets has a great presentation he gives my tour groups about, is Mark Twain relevant today? And he has woven it into the racial issues that we are still having in 2022.
As you say,
and how schools try to ban Huck Finn because of the language. And this is not a racist book. This is an anti-racist book.
It is. Right. I would agree with that.
Sam Clemens was distraught by slavery as he grew into an adult because he lived in Hannibal with enslaved people. And so this is what I try to do in this book, is tell everybody's story. Faye Dant has opened the Jim's Journey Museum. And I had a list. I looked all over to see. Everyone has an opinion about Hannibal. Every Mark Twain book that comes out, every column, there's lots of misinformation. So I went back to Henry Sweets at the Mark Twain Museum for a lot of this stuff because he was born there and he's the director emeritus. He's still the curator. But I was looking for the women of Hannibal because the other person that is one of my heroines is Molly Brown. She was born in Hannibal. She was an Irish immigrant, Dankler's Alley. She worked in the Garth tobacco factory, stripping tobacco leaves.
Wow.
And it is said, now Mark Twain was several decades older than her, that he met her when she was working at the Park Hotel and said, there's gold out west. And darn if she didn't go to Denver and hit it rich with her husband and become one of the top socialites in Denver. Go to mollybrown.org for her museum in Denver. And she was this very generous woman. She knew what it was like to live hard. She knew how tough it was. Then there's another woman who was born into slavery on a plantation in Marion County, came through Hannibal. Then after slavery was over, worked for a family, followed the family to Denver, became a devout Catholic. So I'm looking for Julia Greeley. There's a Julia Greeley Guild. These Franciscan monks are putting her up for sainthood.
Wow.
So she
really?
She helped the poor, and the poor in Denver were white. So she would go after dark and pull supplies in her little red wagon and hand it out then so they did not have to be ashamed to be taking charity from a black woman.
Wow.
Crazy. And nobody knew that.
Crazy.
Nobody. I'm like, have you heard of Julia Greeley? No. Yeah.
And what's her last name again?
Greeley.
Julia Greeley.
Yeah, and there's a JuliaGreeleyGuild.org out in Denver, and I had emailed the Franciscan brother, and he emailed me and said, give me a call. I happened to be at the computer. And I called him because that's the quickest response to an email I've ever received. I said, you don't know, I'm not type A, I'm type AA.
I can tell.
And the thing about Molly Brown, if people don't know, she was on the Titanic. And that's why she got the name The Unsinkable Molly Brown.
Is that okay?
But she was never called Molly. That was a newspaper reporter.
Really?
Maggie. She went by Maggie.
Okay.
It was Margaret Tobin, and then she married Brown. So they named her Molly, and that's how it went off on that path with the musical. But she was a brave, courageous woman, and that's the way she lived her life every day. And it had to be difficult being a woman of that era
Oh, absolutely.
and doing that. But here's what she had. She had the money to back it up.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Yep.
But I just respect her so much. And we used to have the Molly Brown Dinner Theater in Hannibal. I remember when my mom was in BPW, Business and Professional Women's Club, they would have their Christmas party there. And one time I got to polka with one of the actors. And I still remember that. I was like 13 maybe, but the Molly Brown Dinner Theater in Hannibal, Mo. It's not running anymore, but I think it would be successful if someone brought it back.
Oh, yeah. I'd be doing the polka.
So you gave the schedule of the book away a little bit. You've done this by different little tours.
Right, by path. I'm a walking path.
Okay.
Because the idea is you get to Hannibal and you go ride the Mark Twain riverboat, which is a must. The Captain Steve, his mom went to high school with my mom. So it's definitely a must. But it's beautiful because, remember, we're down here on the Mississippi after the Missouri dumps in it, so it's real muddy.
Yeah.
Up there, it's gorgeous. And you have the trees right up against you, and you see the barges coming really close, and the water's not as dirty. It's very scenic, and the boat's in great shape, and they have wonderful food. So you go to the boat, you go through the cave, you go through the Mark Twain Museum. Now what? This is now what? This tells you other things that you might not think should be on your radar, but are. And somebody asked me when I was at a meeting a couple days ago, they're like, how many days should you spend in Hannibal? I said, at least 2 nights.
Really?
You can really do a lot and enjoy a lot. And they have beautiful bed and breakfast. People are buying the Gilded Age mansions on 5th and 6th and renovating them. And we've got Bob Yap up there. He's one of the top restoration experts in the world. He goes all over teaching about carpentry and restoring a home, and all those things. And he and Pat run the Belvedere, and you can stay there. But you can also come in for one of his classes. And he's from North County. He's from North St. Louis.
So the cave, and we were talking before we went on the air, I remember going there as a child. There's 2 caves now, or it's been a little different, or?
The Cameron Cave is now open.
Okay.
So the Cameron Cave was there, but it is fully opened, and the family that has purchased the cave has purchased safari trucks. So if you're a bit of a gentle walker as far as walking the length from the Mark Twain Cave to Cameron, you can ride that. And then to go through the Cameron Cave, you have to carry lanterns.
So how long is that?
Oh, I don't know the mileage of that, but it's a bit of a walk, and it's a little more
Must be a
exciting.
huge cave.
Remember Jesse James, they think, hid out in the Mark Twain Cave. And when I used to ride horses, we had Motley Bottoms outside of Vandalia, and we could ride into the caves.
Wow.
It's like, think Merrimack Caverns.
Okay.
The caves in Missouri are enormous.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of caves,
Yes.
did you know that there's a difference between spelunking and caving?
No. I didn't even know there was such a thing as caving.
Yeah, I
I've
didn't.
always called it. Did
Spel-
you?
Yes, I know.
Always knew it-
Spelunking.
That's
knew
what
that.
I always called it, spelunking.
Right.
but-
Me too. And I learned that is if we're just amateurs dipping our toe into walking through
A
caves.
spelunker?
If we're caving, we are serious. We are serious professional
If you're
people.
caving into the...
Oh.
Caving.
I get it. So you're a spelunker.
You're
I'm
just
a
kinda-
spelunker.
Yeah. We're all spelunkers.
Yeah. I've been in Mud Cave at Beaumont Scout Ranch.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a heck of a place.
But past that Onondaga cave.
Yeah. You got to go through it. You have to go down on your butt, scoosh in,
Wow.
and then
Opens
it
up.
opens to a big cave.
So were you a Boy Scout leader or were you a Boy Scout?
He's Mr. Boy Scout.
All of all
I'm
of the
married
above.
to an Eagle Scout.
I'm an Eagle Scout.
That's one
great.
of the
And adult
things.
leaders stuff now, yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm a
Yay.
district commissioner.
Yeah.
Pathfinder.
District
He's
commissioner.
the big cheese in the
Yes,
Boy
they are.
Scouts.
Oh, my
Just got
word.
my Silver
Scouts.
Beaver Award too.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That's a big deal.
That's big time.
It
That is a
is.
big deal. I was very taken to get that.
So they still doing Twain on Main?
So yes, there's all kinds of festivals, which is one of the best things the CVB has done. So something that's funny that you may not realize, but I always saw it on the billboards, is the telephone number for the Convention and Visitors Bureau is 1 Tom and Huck. Isn't that great?
Really?
1 Tom and Huck, yes. And then they have all sorts of events. So there's the Folk Life Festival, where people come back and do crafts.
funny
And
is
it's
that?
on Main Street, Twain on Main. There's a girlfriend's getaway. There's all sorts of special weekends. I was just there doing my book launch Saturday at Java Jive, which is the coffee shop. 2 storefronts, amazing food and coffee.
Okay.
And that was the barbecue festival. So they had musicians coming in and doing lots of concerts.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
So yeah, they have a lot happening to get people to come in, and they had the lodging. They have Watlow Electric and they have General Mills. So when I was a kid, it was Red Devil. So General Mills is where the Red Devil meatpacking plant was. It's still called Red Devil Road. So you do have some industry that's still there that will use the lodging when the tourists aren't there. So it's
Red
really
Devil
nice
used to
mix.
make like that canned chicken and
I think
canned
it was ham, wasn't
yeah
it?
canned
too?
ham and it was in the yellow wrapper
Talk
around the
about
can.
You got it.
food smells. There's one for you.
And General Food,
General Mills.
and they moved there because maybe I'm getting a wrong company, but they moved there because the owner liked Mark Twain so much he wanted to support Mark Twain's hometown.
Really?
I don't know that, but I will investigate that because that'll be good fodder for future interviews.
Yeah, here it is. That's something else.
Okay.
Teach me something.
Yeah.
I will check that because I have a whole lot of stuff here.
All right.
We'll
great.
learn
Look
something
at you.
from Eddie.
So on the Twain on Main, do they have a Twain lookalike contest?
So here, I don't think they have a lookalike contest. So you have Jim Waddell, who is a Twain reenactor, and you have Richard Gary, who is a Twain reenactor. So you have two gentlemen that will be walking around town many times in their white suits. So it's mainly, I think, just events focusing on the life of Mark Twain. I will tell you, as a former local, I've never been.
Wow.
But that's typical, I think. It's kind of like things that happen here in St. Louis. So,
Okay, I
we've
can't.
got
I
other
have to
things
ask.
going on.
The highlight for me was going to see Richard Marx in concert when I was in high school.
Oh wow.
How's that for a throwback?
I have to ask. Can you take the Twain there?
Rascally Wabbit,
I
you.
know, right?
Oh, I just got it. It was like a slow-moving train.
It is a
towards me.
slow-moving
That was
train,
the
that's
joke.
That's all right.
I don't know. You
He
should be able
tolerates
to-
my jokes, and I
know.
tolerate his.
Yeah, too. That
My husband is the king of puns, so
Is he?
I'll have to share that with him.
Oh,
When he
yeah.
listens to this, I'll say Mark's after you.
I know it. That's right.
So I didn't know there was a
That is
lighthouse up there either.
So it's a memorial lighthouse.
Okay.
Where it is located would be too far for the barges to. They would have already hit the bluffs by the time they see that light. They would already be at the bottom of the Mississippi. So it was a memorial lighthouse. Then it got wiped out by the storm, and they have amazing pictures of how it got just hammered by a storm, and they rebuilt it, and then they just redid it, and of course they were going to unveil it in 2020.
Oh, why not?
So there's a fabulous picture in there, and I found the husband and wife that own Flying Squirrel Aerial Optics, Dave and Paula Herner. They took these fantastic photos, and he let me use them.
Yeah.
Because that's a hard thing I learned about being an author, because, I'm a tour operator. This is
Right.
only my second book. So in the scavenger hunt, I learned about outdoor art. Outdoor art is copyrighted, even if you think it's outdoors. So you got to get permission from the artist
Really?
and from the owner.
No
I had to drop like 18 clues because I had all of this art that I couldn't get permission for. Like the Botero statue in Clayton. I can't find anybody to talk to Botero. I went so far as to call a studio in Boca Raton, Florida, and they couldn't get me to anybody connected to Botero. And he's a famous artist. So this is the difficulty with the pictures. Now, I took pictures. Richard Gary, who's Mark Twain, he took pictures. Gail Rubley, who's a tour guide. Andrea, that works at the library. I had everybody taking
Andrea
pictures.
at the library. Okay.
She's the sister of the director of the CVB. So, but their dad was the band director, and I'm like indirectly related to them by one of my cousins. So then I was at Mark Twain Dinette, and I'm looking at this amazing picture of the Mark Twain riverboat lit up, and I saw who it was, and I called Megan Rapp, who's the director of the CVB, and she's, oh yeah, I called Dave. They're really nice. So that's that beautiful lit picture of the lighthouse, and then on the table of contents page of this new whole docking system that was
wow,
put
look
in.
at
You can
that.
see the boat slips and the triangular shape. It's quite fantastic.
That's fancy pants there.
It is. It is a much bigger improvement. Because remember, you have casual boaters too, leisure boaters that come up and down too.
Yeah.
Go
I
out
was
fishing.
wondering about that. Yeah. Huh.
So you have a section in here on the Gilded Age mansions, probably from the
Lumber.
elite at the time.
So the money, this is the money train. The steamboats started out in Hannibal. That's why there are two courthouses in Marion County. Palmyra is the main courthouse, but when the steamboat era came along and you needed to do all this business and write up deeds and titles and take care of stuff, nobody wanted to take a horse and buggy to Palmyra because even now it's 15, 20 minutes in your car. So imagine taking a horse and carriage. So they built a giant courthouse in Hannibal.
Wow.
And today, like if you want to go get your driver's license test, you can do it at either one.
Huh.
I didn't know Hannibal was actually in 2 counties also.
Correct. Marion and Rawls. Yes, Marion
Isn't that
and Rawls.
weird?
I did not know.
I didn't know that either.
Who knew? I didn't know.
You
She
hit
knew,
that
but
when
I
you
didn't
hit
know.
the Red Devil, then you go a little farther, and then it finally says Marion County. So it's so my mom was born
Oh no.
at home in a holler in Rawls County. She lived in Bonds Holler. That's her family's last name. They live next to Jennings's in Jennings Holler, and that stuff's for real in Missouri.
Oh my goodness. I know.
It's for real.
I know.
But okay, so after the steamboat, then we had the lumber barons. So the lumber came down from up north on the river, and then they sent it out west on the train that connected Hannibal and St. Joe. And that's where the big houses were from, the lumber barons of the
Because
era.
I didn't know this either. Hannibal was the second largest city in Missouri.
What?
After the 1860s.
What?
Yeah.
Second
to
St. Louis was the biggest.
Because remember, Westport was the big city next to Kansas City. Didn't really develop till later because Westport was on the Missouri River. That was the key. You had to be on the railroad.
Gotcha.
So that was
The Twain, where the Twain runs. Okay.
Hey, we want a Twain to go from St. Louis to Hannibal. Can you get that done? That would increase tourism
that would
for
be
me.
great.
Oh, that'd be
We've been
wonderful.
working on
Wouldn't that be
Amtrak.
funny? Oh, that'd fantastic.
There was a train. That's the thing.
That's what I thought. I
But
thought at one time there was a train.
there is.
Are the tracks still there?
Oh yeah. See, and remember, all the tracks Amtrak runs on are freight tracks.
Yeah, which
you
is
know.
the problem.
It's just getting Amtrak
Yeah,
up there.
it's
But man,
stopping
I
and
could
waiting.
sell that.
Yeah.
Now you can go Quincy.
Wouldn't that be fun?
You can go, but to get up to Quincy from St. Louis, you have to
Go to Chicago?
go to LaGrange, come back down, or you have to go up to La Plata and go across.
Wow.
The women of Hannibal. I see Julia Greeley here. And obviously these people had a significant impact in the community for what they did. They weren't just some local person that got a little notoriety, but they were important in the functioning of the city itself.
And had kind of been forgotten. Besides, Molly Brown's home is there and it's open. But a lot of the other women that I put in there, people weren't really aware of because they did not have that national, international notoriety. And I wanted to bring that up. There was a lot of people that started very important things, like the one woman started the Zetas, the African American women's sorority. And that was started out of Hannibal. And then Marie Byram was one of the women who we think was the first to vote. So there's contention there because there was a municipal election in Minnesota, and they're saying that their election was, I think it was 3 or 4 days before, and that a woman voted in that. And then when I dug deep on the Marie Byram story in Hannibal, the tale is that she and her friend were going to vote. And she said, "Oh, Marie, you get to go first." Because Marie's father, of course, was an election judge, because it's Hannibal. And so then when I went to the Missouri League of Women Voters to get this picture, because again, this picture was online, and I had to get and the state of Missouri, the Archives of Missouri was going to charge me $9 for the digital version. So I got a hold of the League of Women Voters in Mexico because Hannibal's had dissolved, and she said, "Call St. Louis." So I went out to the League of Women Voters, and she had the picture. So I scanned it with my Google Pixel phone with Google Photo Scan, and then she had the ledger where she signed.
Oh, wow.
And now where's that other woman's name? And it wasn't on there. So I think that was a tall tale.
There are a lot of tales and things like that get passed down until somebody like yourself does the research, checks the things out, and actually finds out what the real story is.
Wow.
We've been talking to Dia Hoover. She's talking about her book, Hannibal, A Walk Through History. And there's a great shot of Mark Twain there on the front. He's the real deal, and he's not riding a Twain either, Mark.
He's not getting on the Twain?
No, he's not getting on the Twain.
Yeah.
So I'm holding this up for the folks on Facebook. But great book, and you can get this through Reedy Press. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this, where you can get it, also where you can meet her and get a book signed. So this is St. Louis in Tune with Arnold Stricker and Mark Langston. We'll be right back.
At St. Louis in Tune, we strive to bring you informative, useful, and reflective stories, as well as interviews about current and historic issues and events that involve people, places, and things. We cover a wide range of topics, such as the arts, crime, education, employment, faith, finance, food, health, history, housing, humor, justice, and sports, and that's just to name a few. While St. Louis in Tune originates from the Gateway City and covers local topics, we also connect to what's going on nationally as well. If you missed any of our previously aired programs of St. Louis in Tune, simply visit stlintune.com. That's stlintune.com. There you'll find the show notes and everything that was mentioned in that episode and all the other great episodes as well. And if you've got an area that you'd like us to examine deeper, well, just let us know by dropping us a note at stlintune@gmail.com. That's stlintune@gmail.com. St. Louis in Tune. It's heard Monday through Friday on the USRadioNetwork.com. and many great radio stations around the U.S. and, of course, right here in St. Louis. Our website again is stlintune.com. Visit us today. That's stlintune.com. DIA.com.
This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston. So, DIA has some book signings and book launches, and also you can meet her, get a book signed. I'm going to read some of these dates off for you folks. Some are local, some are a little bit outside of the St. Louis metropolitan area, but that's okay. September 17th, Hannibal Public Library, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. September 18th at Van Far R1 High School from 12 noon to 2 p.m.
I'm the speaker for the all-school reunion. I'm
Ooh.
very honored they chose me to do that.
Okay.
In the Gemma Cafetorium where I played many a band
There you
concert,
go.
was in theater. You do it all in a small school. Actually, our cafeteria wasn't part of the gym in that school.
Did you say a gym cafeteria?
Gemma Cafetorium.
Yeah, Gymatorium.
I have never heard of that.
Ours is a gymatorium. It's a Jeannie Robertson. She's a comedian. I don't know if you ever heard of her.
Caffeinasium.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because we had our basketball games, we had our band concerts, and we had our theater. I was in Drama Club, and we were on the stage.
And then you
do
had
it all.
lunch.
Had lunch there, all at the same time.
That you had lunch.
No, we
Wow.
did have a separate cafeteria. I should not say. Van Far was uptown.
Van Far.
Oh, here we go.
Then there's Audrain County, Mexico Public Library on September 22nd in
Hit
the
that
afternoon.
hard.
Audrain?
Audrain.
See, you have to pronounce it as the natives
I
pronounce it.
didn't wanna say
I pronounced it D, and it's DIA. And I was back in time there earlier this week, and now it's Audrain.
Okay, I don't know what's going
So
on.
say it
with
again
him.
for me, DIA.
Audrain.
Audrain.
Got that little Dixie accent.
Audrain.
Like a drain. Yeah.
That's what I thought it was.
Audrain.
Okay,
Something that holds
we're
back
both
water.
slow today. Okay.
Something that holds
The
back
train
water.
has hit me, and I'm going. You're
Yeah,
going
right.
down the drain.
Okay.
But it's Audrain County, Mexico Public Library on September 22nd, and then the Vandalia Public Library. I was looking for my correction there on Friday, September 23rd. But you can also get the book at Reedy Press.
Yes, anywhere books are sold, you can get it on my website at arethereyetdia.com. You can pick it up off my porch. If you're up home, you can pick it up in Mom's Vandalia Firestone and Appliance store that she's turning 82 tomorrow, that she is still running.
Wow, happy birthday, Mom.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, crazy town, huh? And we can ship it too.
So who would have thought that cemeteries were an important place? Like, I know there's some really big cemeteries here in St. Louis, but there must be some big ones up in
Is
Hannibal, too.
Mark Twain buried there?
His family is. And he actually had his family moved from the Old Baptist Cemetery up to Mount Olivet because the Old Baptist Cemetery, okay, so I can say this because I was raised Baptist and I belong to Third Baptist.
Okay.
Baptists don't always agree.
Really?
It's like the Catholics. It's hard to be a Catholic sometimes, I'll tell you that.
I used to bowl on a United Baptist bowling league when I was at Crestwood. I'll never forget Jeff Berg goes, United Baptist. Where did they come up with that? So anyway, the Old Baptist Cemetery was abandoned because the church just fell apart. Like they disagreed and the congregation separated and then nobody took care of it.
We're
It
just
was
leaving
there.
you all in the cemetery
Exactly.
there.
So what would happen if you couldn't afford a burial? It basically was a potter's field.
Okay.
So people would sneak in at night and bury their loved ones
Oh,
if they couldn't
my.
afford an actual cemetery
Oh,
plot.
wow.
And it's a multiracial cemetery, which in Little Dixie, where Hannibal is, Little Dixie is those 14 counties across the middle of Missouri that goes out to Lexington and St. Joe.
Okay.
Because the Southerners settled there when Missouri became a state.
Okay.
You could sneak in and be buried, and there's also headstones though there was an enslaved woman who was buried next to Laura Hawkins, who was Becky Thatcher.
Wow.
And then so Mount Olivet was the later cemetery, and Twain actually got a note from I think it was Crookshanks, said you need to move your family up there because there was his brother and his mother, and his father died. He got like pneumonia. I can't remember off the top of my head where he's buried, but he did move them up there. And the picture of Sam Clemens, his real name, and Laura, that was when she came to visit him in Connecticut, but he only came back to Hannibal once.
And
He made the rounds, but he only came back
Is he
once.
buried up in Connecticut?
I believe he's in Hartford, yeah. And I should have known that because there are going to be Twainiacs out there, and I'm going to get notes.
Twainiacs?
Twainiac.
These are all new now.
He's a Twainiac. Twainiac, I know.
I always think of the Animaniacs when I say Twainiacs.
Okay, what's going It's like, okay, so we've learned cavering. We're a caverer today, and now it's
Audrain.
and a Twainiac. Okay, all right.
So I have to tell you something funny. Anybody listening that's from Audrain County will know this. So Mexico's the county seat. That's where A.P. Green was. That was Kit Bond's granddad. That's where Kit Bond's money came from. And Missouri Military Academy's there. So Vandalia is in the very corner of Audrain, next to Rawls and Pike. So everybody in Vandalia has a chip on their shoulder about Mexico. So my mom will say I should have just expected that out of them. They're from Mexico. And Declan's like, if anybody ever hears her,
I know.
she'll think she's the biggest racist ever. But she means Mexicoans, not Mexicans.
Ah, Mexico.
Mexicoan.
So now there's another word
Wow.
for it. I know. Words are powerful.
What do they call people from Cuba, Missouri then?
Oh, no. No.
That I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not from Cuba, so I can't say
Okay, so
that.
Mark Twain's buried in Woodlawn Cemetery in Elmira, New York.
Elmira, New York. I should have known that. Thank you.
I say we move them.
You could do a song with it.
Ira.
Oak Ridge Boys.
Elmira.
Never gets old.
We are crazy. Now, there's a nature preserve also.
Okay, so this was also something that I did not know about. My aunt didn't know about. My mom. So the woman who's in charge of the bat census for
Is she
Missouri grew up
bad?
in Hannibal.
She's
Like
bad.
bats that fly?
She's bat crazy. Okay.
So she goes up there and says, we used to play in the old limestone quarry in the caves because limestone is this enormous export out of Missouri to this day.
Right.
Yeah.
I had no idea until I started doing the research on the lime kilns and the different buildings and businesses that were there.
Oh, yeah.
So, for instance, while I was writing this book, we sit down at Cafe Dolce outside on the hill, and this couple's from New Zealand. I said, are you a Kiwi? And he said, yes. I'm like, oh, what are you doing in St. Louis if we're going to Powell Hall? I'm like, where do you live? And he said, St. Genevieve. And I'm like, what? He runs the lime quarry down there.
Oh, wow.
The whole lime processing
yeah.
plant in St. Gen from New Zealand came up here to run it. So lime was huge. And so the lime kiln, quarry and kiln that shut down had all of these above ground stores of limestone, and they would cut through it. So it made a cave, a man-made cave. So she remembered playing in those. So when she started doing this bat census, she came back home, gets in there, they find the Myotis sodal, which is commonly called the Indiana bat, previously thought to only be south of the Missouri River. And at that time, I think they're still okay, no white nose syndrome. Because the fungus that's killing all of the bats, like in Austin, Texas, bats on the bridge,
heard of that.
there's no white nose syndrome. The theory is because it's not a cave with a back,
Right.
it's cut all the way through, the airflow maybe stops the fungus. But it's a very specific bat, and so this whole place was cleaned up. I mean, it was a mess when they left it, as the lime company did, and they took care of it. It's got these beautiful walking trails, and they said during the pandemic, it was just mayhem. Everybody was coming out there to walk
Right,
and get
right.
around. So it's a really cool thing, and if you're an adventurous hiker, there's several paths that are just dirt. So you can really
cool.
hike out there too. You don't have to stay on the asphalt.
That's cool.
But if you're a gentle walker, you can make it through the whole loop on the asphalt.
Yeah,
And then
see-
you do the bat counts. So Maggie, who works for me, her brother-in-law's brother is the teacher in Hannibal, Quentin Heaton, that counts them. So if you're a student, you get to go out and do the bat count. So basically, you sit there and count every bat you get coming out of the cave. It has got to be chaos.
Oh, total chaos.
Right? Did I count it once? Did I count it twice? But yeah, so that's really amazing, and it's a big deal, and they got a bunch of money donated. I'm so proud of them. This is great, and the city manages it.
Yeah, they use those things for storage now. A lot of times in various places in Missouri, that even down here south of the city,
What
down
kind
at
of
like Cliff
storage?
Cave, because it's a controlled environment.
Correct.
So you can store a lot of perishable things there. Documents are stored there a lot of times because it keeps them at a constant temperature. I know-
And you can also store it. You can have a data farm there because you know how they get so hot because they're always
Right.
running off electricity. It keeps them cooled naturally.
Oh.
So you mentioned the landing down there in that area, that triangle area. One thing that I wish we would do here in St. Louis, but I don't know that we ever will, is really embrace the river, embrace the landing area. The landing shut down
Yeah.
because of people going on there with their cars and having their parties and doing all that stuff down there. But it looks like this, you can get close to the river just like you can in Washington, Missouri, where there's a park along the river.
Yes. And you can also, there's a parks and gardens section. You can also go to the park that was built to look out over the river. And that is a lot of fun because you can hike the difficult way or you can hike the easy way. It's Riverview Park at the top of Harrison Hill. And again, my dad shot trap with Leo Harrison, and that's the Harrison family. As you grow up, you understand all these connections. But Riverview Park is fantastic, and you can hike all along the river if you're very adventurous and go up to Riverview Park, or you can drive your car. You can drive your car up, go around.
Do they have 4th of July fireworks on the
All
river?
right, National Tom Sawyer Days, biggest event in Hannibal all
pardon
year,
me.
July
Okay.
4th. Yes, that's when Tom and Becky gets chosen. So the 8th graders apply to be Tom and Becky, and they've had a Tom and Becky program for decades.
Okay.
And a kid that grew up next to me in Vandalia, Missouri, he works with a woman who was the Becky in 1979 when President Carter and Rosalind Carter came in on the Delta Queen steamboat.
I love this.
And so Tom and Becky, so what they do, they have to recite a passage from the book, the Tom Sawyer book. The boys paint a fence, and they get interviewed, and they have to write essays. And then they choose, I think, 4 sets of Tom and Becky's because they have to get out of school to come greet groups that come in. Or if there's a big international travel show, they'll take them. The Hannibal CVB will take them. And they walk around the show, and they walk around Main Street. So Tom and Becky are chosen, the fence baiting contest, the frog jumping contest, fireworks, bands. It's a big deal.
Frog joke.
I thought the best Tom would have somebody else paint the fence.
Yeah. I know it.
Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? That's exactly right.
Come paint my fence. I got a fence he's painting.
And there is,
Cut
excuse
my
me,
grass.
there's the fireworks superstore up there, the Missouri's largest fireworks showroom up there.
Who
in
knew?
Hannibal.
Come on.
Why? Because why do we have all the fireworks on the way over to Alton?
Yeah.
Because Missouri's legal and Illinois is
Right.
not. So Hannibal's across from Quincy, from Illinois. So you come over from Illinois to get your fireworks.
Speaking of which, in some of those caves, they have cave-aged cheese. This is the Hannibal facts here.
This is really unbelievable.
And the cave's got the winery too, Cave Hollow Winery. It's really good.
We like the winery.
My cousin had her bridal shower there. Yeah, it was very nice.
Right.
Now, are there people who, because there used to be the big cement factory up there?
Yes, Atlas. So there's Alasco, which is a
Alasco?
town where Monkey Run is, which is not far from Hannibal, but it's its own little entity.
Okay. Is it abandoned now, Alasco? Or?
Actually, they've got these amazing billboard signs up, and they have a little general store. Because I have a couple that live down near Sykeston that she grew up there.
Wow.
And Alasco, did you look up what it is? It's
Yeah.
what's the
LASC.
L is lime, A is, it all stands for what goes into concrete. Aluminum?
Yeah,
and
iron,
aluminum.
lime, alumina, silica, coal, and oxygen.
He's so smart, isn't he?
I got it right in front of
He's
me.
the smartest guy.
I was trying to remember it, and I failed. So
I
I'm
would
so
fail
glad
it
you're my researcher.
unless I had
man.
it right in front of me.
He's a smart fellow.
But that's why they named it Alasco, and they had a lot of immigrants that lived there.
And now, I got to tell you, Dia, that Mark is a huge Walt Disney fan. So
Oh, yeah.
tell the story about Cliff Edwards.
What?
I know about Marceline. Marceline is where the Walt Disney Museum is because Kay's family hosted it
Apparently,
when they came home. Tell me.
Cliff Edwards was the voice of Disney's Jiminy Cricket,
And he was from Hannibal.
and he's from Hannibal.
Got it. That clip.
See
Got
there.
it. Now I know who you're talking about, yes.
Is
Because
that-
you're on the famous Faces Highway.
Oh.
If you're on 72 going to Springfield, you've got Lincoln. Then when you hit Missouri, it's Highway 36. You've got Mark Twain and Hannibal. Then when you get to Marceline, you've got Walt Disney. In Hamilton, where the Missouri Star quilt, that was J.C. Penney. And then you get
I
to
didn't know
St.
that.
Joe, which
Wow.
is the Pony Express and
Right.
Jesse James. So that Highway 36,
Yeah.
which is dual lane,
Yeah.
and always make time to go to lunch or dinner at AJ's, the
Where?
Pear Tree Kitchen. So if you've been at Twisted Tree here, the Abadessa family is up in Macon, and they're friends with the Syberg family. So they have a lot of overlapping recipes. You get prime rib, shrimp,
So
homemade salad
in
dressing
Macon?
in Macon, which is only an hour from Hannibal. So 36, Hannibal, Macon.
And it's a dual 4-lane.
It's
Yeah.
dual 4-lane,
nice.
75 mile an hour. Once you get past Macon, man, you can go wide open.
Yeah. That's the
There's
road that-
elk. There's an elk ranch.
So how far from Hannibal to Kansas City?
So if you go across to St. Joe, you would probably be 3.5 hours, and you got to drop down.
Yeah.
Okay, you
about
can't
still
just
4.5
drop down
hours.
like from.
You can drop down at Columbia.
Okay.
Or you can go to St. Joe. Because remember, the state is not straight up and
Right,
down. Like when you go up 61 from here, you're curving to the
Right.
west. That's why you're closer this way than you are down here. And I tell people, if you're going anywhere, like to Omaha or anywhere in Nebraska, don't take 70.
No.
Go 61 to 36. And my bus drivers don't believe me. And then they get on. They're like, oh, there's
Wow.
nobody up here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And remember, Hannibal's only 2 hours from here, so you
Yeah.
can day trip it. It's good road. It's
Right.
day trip. It's not you're
Right.
not getting on 2-lane highways with a speed trap.
No.
What is the bicycling like? Are there bike paths up there, or is
Yes.
it bike friendly? Or
Yes, lots of bicyclers come through because you've got the Katy Trail going across the state lower, and then they go up and do the trails through Hannibal. And the roads are just quieter. 61's quieter.
It is a quiet road.
And
yeah.
weirdly, because I saw it in the Vandalia Leader.
Wait a minute, something weird? Hold on.
Yes,
because it was in the leader.
the Vandalia Leader that comes out once a week, whether there's any news or not. And do you know that like the Victorian bicycle with the giant
Right,
wheel on the side?
right.
Yeah.
This guy was driving it across country, and he stopped in all these little towns.
Wow.
Wow.
It was a big deal. Talk of the town because Mom has coffee at the Firestone store, so the coffee drinkers were chatting that up.
So we are talking to Dia Hoover about her new book, Hannibal, A Walk Through History. And we had previously talked to her about her book that was called Ultimate Guide to St. Louis's Hidden Treasures. And it was the St. Louis Scavenger, STL Scavenger. And that's still available at Reedy Press also. Here's a couple things. You probably are aware of these, so I'm probably not going to surprise you. But about the cigar factory in Hannibal?
Yes, because of tobacco. Most people don't remember that Missouri can grow almost anything. I tell tourists when they come in, I'm giving them a local tour, I'm like, you can cut Missouri off at the borders, and we pretty much have everything we need. We have refrigeration with the K's, we have fresh running water, we can grow cotton, we can grow corn, beans, we can grow tobacco. So tobacco was a big industry, just like it was here. Remember the L&M plant, a factory was here in St. Louis, and a lot of the women that came from Italy to the Hill, they worked at the L&M factory making the cigarettes.
L&M cigarettes were made here?
That's all my dad ever smoked.
Yeah.
Liggett
Right.
Myers, my dad, my grandpa, and all his brothers, that's what they smoked.
Wow.
And then when they got bought by Philip Morris,
Yeah.
Dad was very upset. I was hoping he would quit, but
Yeah.
anyway, yes. So tobacco was so Garth. When I said that Maggie Tobin Brown worked stripping tobacco leaves, the Garths are one of the very, very wealthiest families. When you talked about the library where I'm speaking in September, it's the Garth Free Public Library. Mrs. Garth built it as an homage to her husband. And then you have the Garth Mansion, which was their home. That's the Garth Mansion Bed and Breakfast, which is technically in New London. So when you're talking about the county split, you're in Rawls County, and that was the same Garth. So tobacco was a big deal.
Interesting.
But remember, you'd had enslaved people there.
Right.
Because you had the Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee people all move in when Missouri became a state. That's
Right.
why that's Little Dixie up there. Sweet tea,
Gotcha.
fried chicken, y'all.
So the biggest surprise to you, having been a Hannibal native, what was it in finding out about in the book?
I have to say I was very excited to find out about all of the women, like Kate Helm, who ran the grocery store. And she ran it. It was her grocery store. And my grandma ran the gas station in Vandalia in the 70s and 80s. And so I was happy to see that 90 years before her.
Female entrepreneurs.
Indeed, and knew how to handle stuff. And then you had Dorcas, who was the notorious Madam Shaw, who was from Hannibal, and she was working in so if you were a girl, you were either a bookbinder, shirtwaist maker, or in the tobacco factory. That's what you did when you were old enough to work. Really? So Dorcas saw that, and she's, I'm not doing this. And then she moved away, and then she came back and sued for her property. And Mary Lou Montgomery, who was the editor of the Hannibal Courier-Post up until the time it ended, has written fabulous books about the history of Hannibal, pioneers in medicine. She wrote The Notorious Madam Shaw, and she was just a boon. She was a font of information for me, along with Henry and with Faye Dan. So, tobacco was a big deal.
I would say if you want to make a trip, a day or two trip up there, this would be a great book to have.
I do.
This would be a great book to have.
Oh, thank you.
Are there regular hotels? I'm sure there are.
You've got the Quality Inn, which is a nice Quality Inn.
Yeah.
And it's connected to Fiddlesticks, which is a great restaurant. And then you've got the Holiday Inn Express.
Okay.
But you got to plan around when General Mills and Watlow Electric have business people in, because then the rate's like $200.
Oh.
Because limited access.
Right.
And then you've got the Best Western downtown. I love the Best Western downtown. They built a secondary building, so when I have tour groups, we're in the new building. And they have an included breakfast. You're across from the Mark Twain dinette with a spinning root beer mug. And the daughter has taken it over. She's put this whole gift shop full of games and puzzles.
Oh, wow.
Plus, you have the dinette. Now, when I was a kid in the 70s and early 80s, you could still sit at the booth and you called your order back on a telephone.
Oh, my.
And they still have a drive up in the back, so you can hold the phone or you can talk to the board. And they have great fried green tomatoes and hamburgers and pork tenderloin. Up north, as you get towards Iowa, we have the smashed out tenderloins. Like you smash it out about a half inch, and then you deep fry it. You bread it and deep fry it. Dairy Queen has it. They call it a pork tenderloin. But the key is it's got to be about 3 times the size
Big
of a
as a plate.
hamburger.
Yeah.
And you have it on a buttered toasted bun.
I'm telling you.
And you order onion rings by
drooling.
the foot. You order
By the
onion rings by
foot.
the foot. You have a half foot, a foot, 2 feet, and they come out on a pole.
Oh, my gosh.
On a little.
Now you're talking.
telling you.
Yeah.
My stomach's growling.
I know. No kidding. I know.
All I talk about is eating. There's the Becky Thatcher ice cream shop, the Stam's Chocolateria. There's Java Jive. She even has, Katie's got vegan. I had a vegan gluten-free chocolate chip muffin, which sounds terrible, and it was amazing.
Oh, I love it.
I sat there and ate it during my book.
yeah.
I spent all my profits eating and drinking from Java Jive that day.
I want to hear more about having coffee at the Firestone store.
Oh,
What,
yeah.
are you serious? What,
Yeah, so we have a
everybody-
coffee pot. And I just found out the reason for this because I was 5 when we bought the store. So Dad had these employees that were taking coffee breaks, so he solved that problem. He put in a coffee pot, and Mom would bring in brownies or cookies or cakes, then they couldn't leave because they had coffee right there. So all the farmers come in and loaf when it's raining, when you can't get in the fields. Or yeah, you
I love
visit.
it.
We used to have Loafers Day. Remember I said BPW? We had Loafers Day. And it would be at the basement of the library, and you played cards, and they made money. Like you'd buy lunch, right? Like you'd have chili or vegetable soup, and people play cards all day, just loafing about. So we have glider rockers because it's a
Loafers
furniture
Day.
store, and they
Gliders,
sit
I love it.
glider rockers
Oh,
there,
that's
and
great.
and then so apparently Julie's got a table with my books now. Julie that works with my mom, she got a used end table in, so she just put it on there. So
That's great.
isn't that great?
I'm going to leave here and go right to Hannibal.
And you can see the Dia Wall of Fame because when Dad passed away in 18, they never took. He would just stick people's pictures up on his desk so you could see me through the years, and then the other kids that the
Well, that's
employees
cool.
had, and my
I
cousin.
love those kind of things.
I've got. If you go to Vandalia Firestone on the Facebook page, you'll see it.
Okay. Oh, okay. So they put it, okay.
No, I put it on the Facebook page. I am leaping them into the 21st century.
So here's the book, folks. Again, Hannibal, A Walk Through History by Dia Hoover. It's a paperback. It's got just unbelievable kinds of things you can do in Hannibal. Take some little tours, walking tours. It gives you, to me, a focus of things to do up there, to direct your day or your couple days when you're up there. Some people are like, oh, let's go to this, and they'll look it up online. But this is from somebody who grew up there, from somebody who did some research and has a lot of different places you can go. If you're into museum kinds of things, if you're into doing some hiking kinds of things, if you're into the food things, there's food things interspersed in here. A great walk through history. And I
Are
appreciate.
you ready for your 4th word of the day?
Uh-oh. I should have been writing these down.
Bookazine.
What?
Where?
Bookazine. It's an 8.5 by 11 book,
Never
and it
heard
looks
of
like
such
a
thing.
magazine. I was introduced to that word by Joe DiGregorio, who is writing Walking Tour Book of the Hell. Joe's the guy that does guided tours of the hell. And then I was at the Washington Library on July 26th, and I mentioned that, and Nelson goes, "Is that a word?" I'm like, "That's a very good question." I'm like, "I don't like the word, but it explains it."
Yeah.
Because it's 48 pages, but it's 8.5 by 11. But there is a word in I think it's the Macmillan Dictionary, whoever that is. That Bookazine is real, and there's a company called Bookazine. But here's the other thing in addition to using it in Hannibal. If you never step foot in Hannibal, I want you to feel like you have seen it. I want you to feel like
Right.
you're looking at this book and these historic and current pictures that you've been there.
Wow.
That's my hope. It's my love letter to Hannibal.
That's a great way to put
Yeah.
that.
And it's packed with great stuff. It really is. You did a great job on it.
You did.
And
Yeah.
taking tours there, like seeing a St. Louisan's view of it when we get there, has been very good for me. And being like on the river barge or American Cruise Lines because of what people's expectations are. So highlighting that. Like people think they're going to get to Hannibal and see little boys on rafts. I'm like, the Mississippi River is really dangerous.
Yes, it is.
And it's like, that was a really dangerous thing for them to do.
Yeah, you don't want to
But-
fool around with that.
Yeah, but it's a great town and it's a treasure, and I'm so happy
is a
we have
treasure,
it.
yeah. It
It's
is
like Old Town St. Charles. People here kind of take that for granted, but when I take people from out of state there, they're just like, wow, this is like Colonial Williamsburg, but the
Right.
French colonial.
It is our first state capital. So, the Mark Twain, there's a ship,
Mark Twain riverboat.
a riverboat.
Paddle wheeler.
Does it actually go out in the river?
Oh, yeah. Captain Steve and Sandy run
So
it, and
you
they do
take a
dinner
little-
cruises, and they have sightseeing cruises.
Like the Admiral used to do? They go up-
Yes, there you go. Just like that. And it's got 3 decks, so you can
Okay.
be outside, but
Uh-huh.
there's full windows and air conditioning on the first 2 decks. Because I don't know if you're aware of this, it can get hot in Missouri.
No. I don't remember that.
Mildew will grow between your toes while you're waiting to board.
That's a new one.
But yes, the Mark Twain riverboat, and they have great, like I do the roast beef, mashed potatoes, and gravy and for my tour groups, and they're so good.
Oh.
And homemade brownies.
Okay. I had no idea it went still out on the river.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That's why
kinda
3
cool.
times a day.
3 times a day?
Yeah. And he bought it from Captain Lump, which I think is a funny name.
So there's so...
Captain.
Lump, I think it's Lump.
It was a lump and a
Lump,
lump.
L-U-M-P.
Right.
For real. I would have changed that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally, yes. I wouldn't want to be called... No. Okay.
All right, the book, Hannibal, A Walk Through History by Dia Hoover. Dia, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't bring you to tears.
Oh,
I
it was
love crying
great.
babies. If you want to do a deep dive, I put all the websites I used.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure. Last time we had great time, and this is a great time.
And it's so much. You are my very first in-person radio.
Oh, good. Yeah.
You're number one.
And we're streaming live.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And on the Facebook.
We are, and we're on all these
wonderful stations.
new platforms now.
See this, radiostl.com, usradionnetwork.com.
Right.
Yeah, we're on mytuner.com now. We're on the Odyssey platform.
Right.
What
You
else
are uptown.
We are.
Simple Radio. We're happy.
We're rocking it.
We're happy.
And I'll
It's been a
close.
pleasure, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
We enjoy having you here. So your next book,
Herman,
let us know.
I'm doing a book a year until I'm 60.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're about-
All right.
Only got a couple
And she's
minutes
only
left.
29.
Is that right? How many years have you been 20?
In my second term. I'm
Yeah.
21 in my third
I'm
term.
the same way.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are too.
I'm the same way.